Hello and welcome to the PRIF Mining Consortium 2024 Final Research Conference. Let me start by acknowledging and paying our respect to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. My name is Ruth and I will be your MC for the morning. I'm the manager of the ARC Training Centre for Integrated Operations for Complex Resources, an outcome and legacy of the PRIF Mining Consortium. After morning tea, you'll be taken care of by Professor Nigel Cook, then after lunch by Adjunct Associate Professor Max Zanin and Dr. Sanaz Orandi. I chose to break my wrist instead of emceeing you for the full day. If you're a veteran of the PRIF conference days, you will know that we love to add a personal touch to our introductions, but as we're near the end of this incredible chapter, we've taken things to the next step. Today, we're celebrating PRIF's impacts by asking our presenters to share their personal highlights and greatest achievements during PRIF. There's a common thread running through these stories, and I wonder if you can spot what it is. Personally, it's been an honour to host these events. While I still might not be 100% comfortable up here, hopefully you've seen a little bit of improvement. The PRIF achievements you will see throughout today would not have been made possible without Dr. Tatiana Kamelova, who is the Program Manager for 4.5 years. Tatiana. And Dr. Sanaz Orandi, who has come on board to help manage its culmination. Sanaz? With regards to housekeeping today, in case of an emergency, please follow the wine centre staff. The toilets are down the corridor on to the left. Morning tea, lunch and afternoon tea will be served in the hallway. There are research posters and demonstrations at the back of the room, so please use the breaks to have a look at those. There were PRIF handouts when you collected your name tag. I was supposed to hand them out and I did a poor job, so please go back and grab a PRIF handout. Thank you to Jane Ball and her MapTech colleagues for putting those together. And during today's program, after each presentation, we'll have time for a question. So there'll be a roving microphone so that we can capture your question for today's recording, so please wait until the microphone comes to you. So to start the day, we welcome Professor Nigel Cook, the director of the PRIF Mining Consortium. Nigel is a mineralogist geochemist specialising in ore body knowledge and the good, the bad and the ugly minerals you will find in South Australia's mineral deposits. Nigel Cook found a new species, Nigel Cookite, that was named in his honour earlier in 2024 by a team at the Northwest University in Xi'an in China. During PRIF, Nigel has been exposed to a whole range of topics and partnerships well outside his usual interests. And every single one of them has cemented his belief that tomorrow's graduates and experts must possess experience and expertise across traditional discipline boundaries. His greatest achievement during PRIF is being able to help lead a fantastic bunch of people with open, inquiring minds and sharing in PRIF's collective triumphs. Welcome to the stage, Professor Nigel Cook.
Well, thank you very much, Ruth. Good morning, everybody, and a huge big welcome to you all. We're going to have several people here today. I don't think he's here yet, but we're going to have Paul Hethersay, the Chief Executive of the Department of Energy and Mining, with us today, and representing the SA Government. We have Professor Michael Goodsite, the Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Energy Futures at the University of Adelaide, with us. Simon Ratcliffe, Chief Technology Officer at MapTech, Chris Greet, the Metallurgy Manager, Mineral Processing Branch at Magotteaux, and also Ben Koch, the CEO of ECA, with us today, and many others as well. We also warmly welcome the participation of researchers from the ARC Training Centre Integrated Operations. Well, here we are again. Many of you were here last year, and we announced last year's conference as our final one. But we did nevertheless hint at the possibility that there would be another get-together as the consortium draws to a close. And yes, we couldn't resist the opportunity to tell you what a great year it's been, and indeed here we are again to tell you some of what we have been up to in the last 12 months. During the course of today, you will hear how our research projects have advanced significantly and in many cases have moved towards commercialisation. That's really exciting. I'm not going to steal the thunder of the individual researchers and presenters now and talk about individual projects and their outcomes, but we'll instead try to draw some conclusions, discuss a few lessons that we've learnt over the last 7 years, and we'll also look a little bit to the future. And before you ask, I can assure you that this is positively the last PRIF Final Research Conference, unless we decide otherwise, of course. And it's therefore a celebration of a research program that's been with us now for seven long years, and we're going to hear a lot more about the background of the PRIF from Peter Dowd a little bit later. We hope that as many of you as possible will stay around all day long, enjoy the presentations, talk to the researchers, view the demonstrations and posters, and that machine over there is not a supersized coffee machine, so go and have a look and find out what it does. Join us for drinks and networking after the formal program as well. We're celebrating the achievements of our young researchers and the conclusion of a research program that has proven not only to be a success scientifically, with all the KPIs being met, but also, I think, a real demonstration of effective collaboration across different institutions and partners. And I think now more than ever, I'm convinced that South Australia is a really awesome place to do research. Now, I hope everybody has a copy of our handouts. And before anybody else asks, this is not a bingo card, Bill, in case you were wondering. This sort of summarises the PRIF Mining Consortium in numbers. So take the time to check out the updates. There's also some updates to the PRIF website as well, which has a short outline of the PRIF and its different achievements. And again, thanks to Maptech and Jane especially for all the collaboration in putting this together. Now, in this handout, there are many numbers, and I'm not going to go through them all, but I do just want to draw attention to 4 of them, which I believe are particularly significant. Yes, it's been 75 months of collaboration and research. And one very clear and probably obvious take-home message at the end of the consortium has been that it really does take time and effort to build a program on the scale of the consortium. It takes a long time to set it up, to make sure everybody involved is on the same page and can talk intelligently to one another, refine the objectives of the projects in the light of both ambition and reality, nurture those contacts, particularly the all-important personnel in our partner organisations, the metals companies and mining companies, what we call our champions. It has taken time to do that, but I think it has been well worth all the effort involved. More than 140 papers have been published and many more are on the way, and that's a permanent record of achievement. And I can assure you that a great deal of blood, sweat and tears have been invested in these publications. Getting good papers published can be really tough, and all too often work that cuts across traditional research domains, traditional disciplines, gets rougher than average treatment from editors and reviewers. And many of the PRIF outcomes have fallen into those categories. We should also acknowledge the many, many conferences and workshop presentations over the past 7 years, and especially if we add on all the practice runs and training sessions that we've organised. It's been said many times before that no researcher is truly competitive until they can verbally communicate their findings and implications to different audiences. Practice makes perfect and has been a key part of the PRIF, making our researchers not only really good at what they do, but also effective ambassadors everywhere they go in the world. Well, all projects have to end, and it's been great to see so many of our graduates completing their PhDs and going on to really super exciting careers with a whole variety of different employers. In a couple of cases, of course, some of those people have actually jumped off to get a really good job quicker than we really would have liked. Every single one of them represents an asset to their new employers and other research teams, both in terms of the breadth of knowledge and skill sets that they have, but also beyond that in terms of understanding how to bridge that often tricky gap between pure and applied research, or between the quite different expectations of industry and academia. And we go to another number. A productive research environment inevitably generates additional opportunities to grow, and we're especially pleased that the PRIF, directly or indirectly, has led to almost $50 million in leverage funding over the duration of the project. And we're especially excited that the funding has been from many different sources, ranging from ARC training centres, linkage projects, through cooperative research projects, to AEA grants recently. And I have no doubt that this number is going to continue to grow, and indeed very much hope that it will, building on the success of the PRIF, the researchers involved, and the networks that we've been able to establish in the last few years. So I'll move on just to a few thoughts on what we've learned over the past 7 years, and it's been a case of constantly learning and adapting to make the consortium work effectively. Regular meetings, exchanging ideas, and transparency about the objectives with our partners are all essential, and our meetings every second Thursday at 11 a.m. have really been the lifeblood of the consortium, enabling the critical exchange of ideas. And I really appreciate all the time that our researchers, their supervisors, and other friends of the PRIF have put in to attend there every 2 weeks. Research proposals tend to chart out the course of a project as if everything is going to stay the same, but of course, life doesn't work like that. 7 years is a long time, and looking back now, it's not surprising that not all of our partners we originally had in the PRIF have stayed the course. There are many reasons for this. Changing ambitions, changing staff, which is all too common, particularly in the minerals industry. A few projects that didn't quite reach the TRL level that we initially aspired to, and often just competition from other pressing obligations on all sides. We're also very mindful that the minerals industry has undergone major changes, and BHP's acquisition of OzMinerals being just one of the big changes that we've seen in the last couple of years. We never stopped searching for new partners and believe that those who have joined us towards the end of the consortium, and there are some, have also added great value to the programme. It's been great to have them involved. Not everything will go as planned in a programme of this scale, and it sounds obvious, but real flexibility and readiness to adapt are critical in any large project. That ability, that freedom to redesign projects has been a real positive for the PRIF consortium, and is perhaps a luxury that other research funding sources don't always have quite as much of. Looking back, we could have started planning the PRIF legacy perhaps a little bit sooner than we did, recognising and tackling that major challenge of going from great ideas to commercialisation. And I'm very grateful for all the expertise well beyond academia that we've been able to call on and have received, and I'm thinking in particular Met's Ignited involvement in the PRIF. I think we now understand TRL and also CRL much better than we did a few years ago, and perhaps I wish I'd understood them as well when I took over as director in 2019. I think it also hit me later than perhaps it ought to have that software development can potentially move significantly faster than hardware, with all the things that can go astray with the latter. And if you don't know what I mean, just go and have a chat with DFAN about water pumps. Lastly, and this was something that the panel discussed last year and doubtless will this year too, IP issues, really important, but more openness and trust can often speed creativity. And I remember the first PRIF conference that I convened as director in 2019, when we actually had Programme A presentations in one room and Project B presentations simultaneously next door, so that they didn't actually hear each other. I think it was just after that that we realised how much there was really to be gained by all gathering together and everybody sharing within reasonable limits their new results. Let's go to a few perhaps slightly less take-home messages at the end of the PRIF. I think take the time and resources to build the team. It's absolutely critical. Lunches, get-together, and plenty of food and drink go an awful long way to achieving that. And we've had some really good times as a team. Our research team has very different backgrounds, very different skill sets, and quite different ambitions as well. And I think we've seen in the PRIF just how well they can actually complement one another. And I'm thinking mechanical engineers, metallurgists, geologists, mathematicians, a whole bunch of people, chemists, a whole bunch of people, how they can actually complement each other once those barriers are broken down and a common language has been established. I think we've become rather good at sharing each other's success, inspiring one another, but also having fun. And I really want to thank Tatiana for all her many posts to Twitter and LinkedIn over the past few years, promoting both the serious side of the PRIF and also the fun side as well as the success of the individuals involved. It's also important to acknowledge the role that everybody behind the scenes has played in the PRIF, and I'll certainly mention a few names as they are here or were intending to be here today. Ellen Schuler, our contact at DIS and state government, for her constructive and highly efficient work on the PRIF's behalf. Laura and Amanda at ISA for their continued support. John in Research Services for advice big and small on legal and protocol issues are just some of the names that I'd like to mention. Looking a little bit now to the future, as I mentioned previously, collaborative networks established through the PRIF can form the basis for new research funding opportunities. This is a rapidly evolving landscape with many schemes appearing over the past 7 years. And I can only encourage everybody involved in the PRIF to continue to develop ideas and keep on submitting proposals. Research funding is competitive and certainly getting more so from what I can see at the moment. But the achievements of the PRIF are a recognised track record that can easily be leveraged to demonstrate likely success. Not too far away now, the two universities are going to be merging and Adelaide University will be born. I'd like to think that the PRIF Consortium has been a role model for collaboration between the two universities and that the merger can bring all kinds of new opportunities. Closer collaboration, diverse, accessible infrastructures, as well as the shared procedures and administration routines. That said, and in the midst of all the ongoing efforts involved in designing a common curriculum, I believe we need to keep reminding those involved that the merger negotiations should also consider the very critical role of the existing internationally recognised research excellence in our two universities, as well as the people behind it. I'm very pleased to be able to say that we have approval from state government to retain the identity of the PRIF Consortium until August 2027. And our website is going to remain live, and we'll do our best to communicate news as it comes along, be it publications, be it researcher success, as they happen to you all. And lastly, it's great to see the increased recognition of Adelaide's mineral industry research environment well outside our own state, for example, at the recent Copper to the World event. And it was great to hear just this week from the Osmine board acknowledging the very valuable role that we played at that event. So I'm going to close now and thank everybody involved, everybody who was here, and the many, many people who couldn't make it today. To thank you all for making the PRIF Consortium not only a success, but also a venture that has given me personally very much pleasure. And I really want you all to enjoy the rest of today and go home with something to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Don't use no.
Thank you, Nigel. I loved the lessons learnt. That's definitely things we need to consider in the training centre. I'll have to get that slide from you and make some pointers. So our first guest speaker today is Professor Michael Goodsite, the Pro Vice-Chancellor of Research Operations and Commercialisation at the University of Adelaide. He co-leads the working group with Professor Jill Dorian of UniSA, developing the signature research theme, Sustainable Green Transition, one of the 5 signature research themes focused on research impact and founded on excellence at Adelaide University. Michael's career at the University of Adelaide during PRIF reads like a who's who of positions, having filled 9 different roles, which must be a record. His multifaceted experience has been invaluable to PRIF. Welcome, Professor Michael Goodsite.
Thank you, Ruth. Since arriving to the University of Adelaide and about 6.5 years ago, where I was asked, my first role was to lead the School of Civil, Environmental, and Mining Engineering. Firstly, what was immediately apparent was the amazing academic staff, their passion for working together with a sector that's absolutely essential to our world and helping achieve success for the students. I've seen how the PRIF, the consortium, brings together not only all of these amazing companies, and thank you all for your support and the state for its support, but staff from across the university. And staff that perhaps doesn't have to be here, but makes time for you all because you make time for them to achieve together. Amanda, the manager of the Institute. Francois, the director of commercialization. And that commercialization number might seem small to you, but the Australian Asian average for return for commercialization for research is just 1%. So do the numbers for the PRIF, and I'm sure you'll see you're smashing it. Startups, and I know there's people in the room that have helped driven startups. The Australian Asian average for startups from a university in this region, just 1 per year. So with respect to being a role model, you all convinced me from day one. And throughout all of my various roles and positions, I'm very sincerely saying a mainstay has been to use PRIF and this consortium as a beacon of how to do things well, with excellence, and with impact for the world. So that's just my opinion, and I'll look forward to continuing championing you all at every turn. So, Nigel, I guess, thanks for introducing me with a role I had until July 1st. I can't quite keep up with them myself, but now I have a real honor of being in charge of research operations and commercialization. And I bring that up because, again, when I look at my current portfolio, many of the initiatives we're working on trace to the PRIF, to your credit. And you all make it look easy and make it look normal and make it look standard. And it's absolutely extraordinary. So I think when you're inside the PRIF and you look around, everything you are doing, others should learn from. And you have a lot to be proud of. Now, I see Laura standing in the back from the Institute. Normally she would help me write and prepare notes, and she's probably going, oh my gosh, he's completely off his notes again. But look, you all need to hear it from university leadership that it's more than a delight to be here to welcome you all to this finally final meeting, I guess. Hopefully not. On behalf of the Vice-Chancellor and the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for your meeting, the University of Adelaide, and I'm sure I can say the University of South Australia, congratulates all of you for your accomplishments and success, and we are proud of you. We recognize what you do is important to the state, nation, and world. There is no progress, prosperity, transition, and sustainability without advancing mining and all that sits around it in the value chain. And the PRIF is simply an exemplar in industry research collaboration, something all in society and our federal government rightly expects more of. If you look at the numbers of how you've improved the copper for this state and the economic impact it has, it will be noticeable. Sustainable prosperity for the state, but it won't be enough to help us get to the green transition and electrification society also expects. Just the other night, it was an honor and privilege for myself to attend the Playford Memorial Trust Scholarship Night focused on the resources sector. So those scholarships they give for the resources sector. And I heard the story of 17 new recipients and the success of one of last year's recipients. And I reflected deeply that their success is no small part due to the consummate research excellence and professionalism that I've witnessed by all in this room. Many of those scholarship winners are traced directly or indirectly to efforts in the PRIF. And I'm convinced that collectively, you all have created one of the best collaborative research and learning environments that I have ever experienced in my 20 years of leadership at universities. Industry is backing you, the students are backing you, government is backing you, and for all it's worth, I personally back you. Your companies have joined with the South Australian government and the universities through the PRIF to ensure the leading expertise is evolved for the industry that is leading our technological future. That's no small feat. So look, I'm impressed. I'm from Arizona, and I don't say that lightly. Many of you have probably spent more time in Arizona around copper mines than I have. So you know we mean it when we say it. I'm a proud prior head of the School of Civil, Environmental, and Mining Engineering, the Australian School of Petroleum, the Institute of Mineral and Energy Research, and the Institute for Sustainability, Energy, and Resources, and as Ruth mentioned, many other roles at the university. I've witnessed you all provide professional development, mentoring, internship opportunities for those in the PRIF and those just simply interested. I've witnessed how you back yourself and how you go from strength to strength. I've seen those associated, academic as well as professional, have career-enhancing experience. And Ruth, you joke about your own development standing at the podium, and those of us who have had the privilege of knowing you through the years can actually see how well you're developing as a professional to this whole group, as is everybody that's helping support it. So yes, Nigel, I've seen the exemplar of what I think is one of the exciting opportunities of the amalgamation of our university in action, in you all. Our university helping those around us to become their best for the benefit of the state. So this past month, this month actually, we launched Adelaide University, which is the name of our new amalgamated university, into the market. And it will be a for-purpose university that will launch bright futures for lifelong learners and global citizens. It will accelerate social cohesion and prosperity by delivering nation-leading curriculum and exceptional student experience, pursuing greater educational equality, expanding research partnerships and outcomes, and aligning with industry and generating significant resource. The university will start with 5 signature research themes. These are themes that when you bring the research strengths together of both of our universities, that they will help achieve excellence and prosperity for our state. One of them is the Sustainable Green Transition theme, which I have the honor of co-leading with my colleague, Professor Jill Dorian from the University of South Australia. And resources are integral to that. Carolyn Tiddy, Star and Gloria are on the committee, and please reach out to them or myself to provide input on the future research strategies of our future university. I'm listening, I'm learning, and it's a pleasure. So I look forward to continue to champion as much as I can what you're doing, and thank you very sincerely on behalf of the University of Adelaide for all your support. And thanks for having me. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them, or else we'll hear about them perhaps in the panel. Thanks.
Do we have any questions for Mike?
Yes.
Mike, do you want
Thank you, Mike, for your support there. As the co-head for this signature research scheme there, for the new university there, how we can, I don't know what's the position of the mining research in that, but because everyone now is heavily focused on green, renewable things there. Mining is old, dirty things there. At least the mining is now appearing in this significant signature research scheme there. And how would you like to look at these things there? Thank you.
Can you speak into the mic? Thanks.
So the signature research theme is about creating a research strategy for the future. I personally don't look at mining as old or dirty. I understand its importance. I understand that it's key to our society. And I encourage everybody involved in the mining sector to ensure that there is a appropriate place in the future signature research strategy that, as I mentioned in my talk, requires resources to actually achieve that sustainable green transition that the state is looking to lead. If anybody who has ever read university strategies might see that at the highest level, it says we will have 5 signature research themes. And then at the division of research level, it might say what those 5 themes are. And then if somebody takes out the paperwork, that might say that it makes sense to do these aims, goals, et cetera. And then the operationalization always boils down to the people. And so those who have known me a long time understand that I believe always in investing in people, not projects, and backing talent. And so this is an example when you stand together, you have that critical mass, and it's noticed, the excellence, the impact is noticed. And in a university that has an aim to be recognized as one of those that's doing most with industry, it's an exemplar, what you're doing every day in the PRIF. But please do reach out, and when we get to the point when we're able to socialize the signature research theme strategy, which in principle will be a 4 to 5 page document, to weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Right, nobody goes home empty-handed here, so thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you, Mark. We will now hear from Professor Peter Dowd, who is the PRIF Mining Consortium Program A Leader and Director of the ARC Training Centre for Integrated Operations for Complex Resources. The Training Centre is a 6-year, $14 million cash and in-kind research program that includes 17 mining and industry partners, 3 universities, government and technology stakeholders across the mining sector. Peter is a professor of mining engineering at the University of Adelaide, with a career spanning continents, including leadership roles at top-tier institutions in the UK and Canada. Peter brings a wealth of experience to his work. His tenure as Executive Dean of the University of Adelaide's Faculty of Engineering, Computer and Mathematical Sciences from 2004 to 2012 solidified his reputation as a visionary academic leader. Beyond academia, Peter has been a driving force in the mining industry, offering his expertise to projects across Australia, Europe, Africa, the Americas, and the Middle East. His recent work has focused on morphometric analysis of closed terrain depressions on Earth and on Mars, coupled hydrothermochemical fluid flow through rock fracture networks, and in situ recovery of minerals. Recognised for his exceptional contributions, Peter is a Distinguished Fellow of both the Royal Academy of Engineering and the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering. His recent presidency of the International Association for Mathematical Geosciences is a testament to his global influence in the field. Peter has relished the opportunity to bridge disciplinary divides and forge unexpected collaborations during PRIF. His most significant contribution has been mentoring PhD students through their research journey from concept to publication and successful career launch in the mining industry. Welcome to the stage, Professor Peter Dowd.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm not sure I deserve some of the things you said, but thank you anyway. How do I go to the next?
There's a little remote
Where?
on here. Look, this one here. I think
This one?
make the play with
This
the
one?
green button.
Okay. All right. It might seem strange to begin this presentation with two universities on opposite sides of the world, the University of Leeds in the UK and the University of Adelaide here in South Australia. There is a significant collaboration, or I won't say collaboration because I don't think anything that we would call a meaningful collaboration ever came out of this, but the amount of overlap here is remarkable. They were both founded in exactly the same year. The Braggs began their research here, or actually the senior Bragg began in the UK, the junior Bragg was born in Adelaide, and they both collaborated across that section. Around 2003, I was invited by the Chancellor of the University of Adelaide to apply for the position of Executive Dean, as Ruth referred to, at the University of Adelaide. When I came here, before I came here actually, some of the people from University of South Australia contacted me, people who were dealing with the degree in mining engineering at the University of South Australia, as that was being closed down. And they wanted to, I suppose, get me to help them with not carrying on with that message. But it was obvious when I came here that it was going to close down. It seemed particularly worrying to me that in a state like South Australia, where mining is one of the major contributors to the economy, there was no degree at the University of Adelaide. There had been a degree many years ago, but it had closed down for the same reasons that the one at the University of South Australia was closing down. We contacted the state government, and you'll hear probably something like this from Paul Hethersay this afternoon, and they agreed that it was difficult actually to contribute to the South Australian economy without introducing or reintroducing mining engineering degrees. The industry and the state government provided significant amounts of funding to establish a mining engineering degree program at the University of Adelaide. The new mining engineering degree was established in 2006. 3 academics were recruited from the University of Leeds to lead the program. None of the 3 are here today because they're doing something else. We expected that we might get around 20 students enrolled in the new degree program. 72 students enrolled, which was an amazing thing for the first year of the program. This was the first step in establishing a leading centre for minerals and energy resources at the University of Adelaide. Sometimes things just happen by chance. Sometimes that's called serendipity. And I guess it was serendipity that led to all of the things on the previous slide. But the missing component here was mineral processing. And ultimately, that's been provided by the internationally recognised expertise in mineral processing at the University of South Australia, and led to some collaborations that you've seen in Nigel's presentation, and you'll see that throughout the training centre as well. When I came here, there were lots of individual research groups, but nothing connected. There were very good research groups, but throughout the world, independent and small-scale research was waning. Following discussions on new approaches to large-scale research, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research at the time, Richard Russell, agreed to hold a group meeting with heads of school, executive deans and administrative units in order to assess the possibility of new approaches to research. That forum was held on the 8th of June in 2007. One of these contributions included interdisciplinarity, systems and super concepts. This is partly based on the remarkable work of Alan Wilson, who was the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Leeds. And if you're interested in this, if you search for it, you'll find a very interesting number of books that he's written. His approach to this, though, was much more on education than industry research. I made a presentation on this, borrowed from Alan Wilson, and the outcome was that the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research agreed to proceed with the concept in item 3. So to set this up was quite a challenge, because those people who had large grants around relatively small, in the scheme of things, research groups initially saw it as some sort of encroachment on their patch. But after about a year or two of discussions around this, we came to an agreement that we would move towards an interdisciplinary systems and super concepts approach. For the areas covered in PRIF and later the training centre, that meant for University of Adelaide, mining engineering, interdisciplinary research, systems approaches to that research, research institutes, one of the first being IMA, and finally to the PRIF and to the training centre. So by a super concept, we mean a concept that originates in an established discipline but is found to have much wide-reaching effective applications in other fields. So IMA, the Institute for Mineral and Energy Resources, was formed to focus on just that, interdisciplinary research and systems approaches to mineral and energy resources. It was established in 2009 and formally launched by the South Australian Minister for Mineral Resource Development, Paul Holloway, on the 5th of October 2010. Professor Stephen Grano at the University of South Australia was appointed Director of IMA at the University of Adelaide, and he moved there in 2010. Now we come to PRIF. PRIF's submission was about unlocking complex resources through lean processing, and that award was made in September 2017. It was aligned and focused on specific areas of interest to Oz Minerals and what was then known as BHP Olympic Dam Proprietary Limited. There were two companies involved, Oz Minerals and BHP Olympic Dam, an upstream program and a downstream program, A being at the University of Adelaide, increasing certainty on mill feed to deliver predictable performance, and B being downstream and based on grinding, flotation, tails leach optimisation. The objectives of the PRIF were to address end-user partner challenges to maximise value from complex resources and minimise environmental impacts. Then to demonstrate the value of and provide innovative tools for the integration of the resource, mining, ore delivery, processing and leaching stages. And finally, to commercialise the technological outcomes that Nigel's referred to this morning and the market opportunities in collaboration with the translation partners and potential spin-out companies. The overall goal was to increase certainty on mill feed to deliver predictable performance, which will reduce energy consumption in processing, grinding and concentration in the Australian mining industry and increase efficiency and final revenue. The Premier's Research and Infrastructure Fund grant for unlocking complex resources through lean processing was awarded in 2017 with a total of $14 million from the South Australian Government. The Research Consortium program, PRIF RCP, was for 2017 to 2022 at the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, with the initial major industry partners being BHP and Oz Minerals, but about 14 other technological companies. Professor Stephen Grano was appointed Director of PRIF in 2017, and Professor Nigel Cook was appointed in 2019. The funding agreement was signed on the 27th of October 2017. It was for a 4-year duration. The collaboration agreement was fully executed on the 1st of June 2018, and the contract variation issued by the Department of State Government on the 31st of January 2019 stated that the consortium would end in April 2022. A condition of this award was that we would apply for an ARC training centre, which we ultimately did. PRIF 2 was not a separate PRIF, but a second component of the award. And this was in the form of an extension of the PRIF consortium in a contract variation issued by the Department of Industry and Innovation on the 24th of January 2023. This confirmed the revised consortium program end date as being the 31st of August 2024. The original industry partners, end-user partners, Olympic Dam BHP Corporation, Proprietary Limited and Oz Minerals Limited, now known as Think and Act Differently from 2023. The translation partners, I won't read the list out there. The supporting partner was Amira International, and the funding came in 600,000 cash from BHP and 800,000 in kind from Oz Minerals. So to put this in a diagrammatic form, starting back in Leeds in 2003, then Adelaide 2004, mining engineering degree program established and operating from 2006. The interdisciplinary research and systems approaches to research began within PRIF 2007 with PRIF and IMA. IMA was established in 2009, PRIF awarded in 2017, PRIF extension 2023, and finally in 2024 the PRIF completion, which is this month. The programs were divided into upstream and downstream projects, and I won't go through all of these here. Most of those people in the room will have seen this before. The Program A optimization was largely based on Oz Minerals operations, and Program B downstream based largely on BHP operations. You can see across the next row there the different research groups from 1, 2, 3 and 4 under Program A, and then in the blue boxes beneath that the research projects, and in the yellow boxes, the translation projects. And similarly for BHP's program with downstream program at largely at University of South Australia, but some collaboration with the University of Adelaide as well. Research groups 1, 2 and 3, with again the blue boxes representing the research projects and the yellow boxes representing the translation projects. So that's a brief overview of how we came to be the PRIF. Thank you to all of our industry partners and our supporters. And thank you to Professor Steve Agrano, Nigel Cook, Sanaz Orande, Tatiana Kmeleva, and all of the researchers, academics and industry partners who participated in the PRIF consortium.
Questions for Peter? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. Nigel?
Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Kirsten for helping me clap. It's a bit hard with one hand. So our next speaker is Dr. Christopher Greet, who graduated from the South Australian Institute of Technology with a MET engineering degree in 1990 and was awarded his PhD from the Ian Walk Research Institute at the University of South Australia in 2002. Chris has worked within the mining industry in a variety of roles, from shift foreman at the Teutonic Bore copper zinc operation to principal technologist with Pasminco. He is currently employed part-time by Magotteaux as METS and Mineral Processing Research Specialist. The part-time aspect is a new thing in Chris's attempt at retirement, but will just likely mean he'll take on more consulting work. Chris has enjoyed interacting with researchers and examining technical issues in flotation to develop sensors that can improve process performance. Above all else, Chris values being involved and hopefully taking some of these sensors to the next level. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Ruth. Good morning, all. Yes, I'm new to commercialisation. I guess we developed an instrument after observing things in the plant, and I thought, we'll be able to get this on the road and everything will be wonderful, the company will make money, and unfortunately it doesn't happen that easily. It's usually 2 steps forward, maybe 1 back, usually 3 back, but it's a long and windy road. I had a brilliant idea. I also felt like goofy as well, but people do wake up with ideas and they think they're really, really good. Then what do you do next? You have an idea. Do you sit on it and hatch it, or do you do something about it? There's a few simple questions you should ask yourself. Who says it's a brilliant idea? I've got a colleague within Magotteaux that says, I've got a brilliant idea, and he's in sales, and I always say, it's not a brilliant idea. You need to test it. You need to actually understand that other people might think it's a stupid idea. So don't think it's a brilliant idea. Check it with other people. Is there data to back your hypothesis? In my case, I think we do have the data, but a lot of people have ideas and it just sort of becomes almost Trumpian in its vision. It's got no substance. Does the idea have value? It's good to have an idea, but if it has no practical use or no value, it's just an idea, and it's probably not worth pursuing. Do other people recognise that value? And perhaps it's worth thinking that other people really need to affirm what you think, because if you go out and challenge the world, they may actually laugh at you. But sometimes it's worth persisting, but it's always good to check what other people think because it gives you a reality check. Then you have to start thinking about how the hell you're going to prove this. Because having the idea is great, but moving it forward to making it into something that's actually useful and can be built into a product and sold and monetised is very, very important. In my role within Magotteaux, which is changing, thank you, Ruth, for reminding me that I'm actually going part-time for Magotteaux. I've made the decision to retire, but they seem to have suffered from separation anxiety and they don't want me to go, which is unusual. Most people think that when Chris has left the room, it's a good thing. Anyway, this work was done back in 2005. At a nickel concentrator in Western Australia. Some of you have probably seen this slide before. Max is nodding his head many times. But you can see that the EH of the flash tail on the first day of that survey was around 150 millivolts. And the EH dropped to about minus 75 millivolts by the 10th day. And these were individual surveys done every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, so it was sort of random. But you can see that the EH actually dropped. When I was plotting this data up in the mill office, I said to the young metallurgist who happened to be there, your ore has changed. And she looked at me and said, how the hell would you know? Because you're flogging grinding media, but how would you know? And I said, well, we've just done these pulp chemistry surveys and the EH over these days has dropped and other pulp chemical parameters had too. As it turned out, they actually had a change in the ore type. They had gone to more pyrrhitic ore, so the pyrrhotite being more reactive drove the EH down. And has this thing got a pointer? Yes, it has. So you can see that's the EH going down. They controlled the pH to the same number, about 8.5, 8 to 8.5. If they'd looked at their lime consumption, they would have seen that the consumption had gone up. Pyrrhotite oxidizes, forms acid, you're going to need to add more lime. But they don't look at that, they just see pH as the same. What had happened is they had actually had a lot more pyrrhotite come in, but that pyrrhotite was nickeliferous. So their nickel recoveries went up, but their nickel grades went down. So this got me thinking, which is an unusual state of affairs for me. Can we use the pulp chemistry to actually predict changes in mineralogy within the ore coming into the plant? Moving on a few years, I decided that sending a technician to site to measure this is really good, but it's quite expensive, time consuming, and sometimes the technicians got a little bit lazy maybe, but why can't we actually do this with a machine? And that led to the beginning, and we built a concept demonstration prototype, this is PCM, Pulp Chemistry Monitor. It's very simple. And we took this to Broken Hill, where we actually pumped primary ball mill discharge into this machine, and we measured the pulp chemistry. It was a dunking duck, so the pot stood up, we had an arm swing across, fill it up, and then took the measurement, emptied, washed out, and started again. We could get a reading every 3.5 minutes. We thought, well, maybe we've proven the concept here, but measuring one stream at a time is a bit of a pain. If you have several streams, why don't we make a unit that has the ability to measure 2 streams? Good, we still got the dunking duck. And we sent this unit up to Pukam in Laos, where it worked very well for 3 years. But as you know, in Laos, the labour costs are very low. So we were actually able to have people look after it. If this had been in Australia, it would have fallen in a screaming heap in about a week. Because labour costs are here. If they don't believe its value, they don't service it. So there's a few issues with this. But we started to collect data, we were giving people data, and we were starting to think that we had the best thing since sliced bread. Unfortunately, people on site don't actually have a lot of time to analyse data that they don't understand. Some people do spend the effort, but most don't. So my colleague up the back, who is very, very good at modelling and what have you, we started looking at the data and we found, and bear with me, we used the iron to copper ratio versus pH, and this is the oxygen demand readings. And we noticed that as the iron to copper ratio increased, which tends to suggest you've got more pyrite coming into the feed, the oxygen demand went up. Now, when you have more pyrite, you usually go to a higher pH, but you still had a high oxygen demand, you had a high reactivity. Now, what did that mean for recovery? So if you look at this, the recoveries, we've segmented them here. The recoveries up here where we have high iron copper ratio, high oxygen demand, are lower. They're around that 85, 87%. Whereas down here, where we had the low ratio, we were able to operate at a lower pH, we had a lower oxygen demand, but the recoveries were much higher. So this got us started to think that maybe we could build some algorithms and this would get us across the valley of death. When you come up with a new product, everybody's excited, but you actually go through a valley of death where you actually have to start making the thing useful. And if you give people numbers that they don't understand, it's usually not very useful. So we went into this exercise to try and work out how we could build algorithms that describe the process that uses the pulp chemistry. Oops. We did a few things. we realised the dunking duck was a bit of a dud idea. Too many moving parts. Things needed a lot of attention. So we spent a lot of time re-optimising the design, and there's one sitting up the back there. This doesn't have, well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 moving parts in it, and only one of those is in contact with the slurry. So back. So you've got 2 pistons here. We pump continuously from the process stream. When we want to sample something, this drags the hose over here. We fill this up with the pinch valve closing, measure. When we finish the measurement, pinch valve opens, dumps it, washes it, and off we go again. Very simple. And those things don't actually contact the slurry, and they've extended the life of the machine. I think we can get up to about 3 years out of this without any great drama. We won a METS Ignited grant, and that's where we got the money from to actually develop the new machine. And that thing up the back is the culmination of probably the better part of 16 or 17 years worth of work. We started building algorithms that describe the process. And from this you can see that from our analysis of a lot of data, things that do impact recovery, particle size, feed grade, the iron feed grade, which is in some respects an indication of the amount of pyrite, pH, EHDO, oxygen demand and airflow rate, all seem to have an impact on recovery. If we understand these things, we can actually start to build useful algorithms that you can use to control the process. All of this, see, I'm dealing with science, I'm doing things that I like doing, inventing stuff, really getting science to show me something. But I also have a business objective. I have masters in Belgium, the land of Tintin and Asterix and Obelix. It's a very interesting country, but they want to make money. They've given me some money to develop stuff, but they want to be able to make money. So they're constantly at me about what is your business case. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems to be a bit of a buzzword to me. What is the business case? So I actually had to go away and do a lot of thinking about how we were going to monetize this and then come up with what value Magotteaux pulp, because Belgium marketing got to the name, PCM's gone, it's now Magotteaux pulp. What value can we bring? So we had to define what value we actually could bring to a mining company by installing this instrument. That then leads to forming the business case, and you can actually start to build some economic framework around this so that the company can continue to fund it and we can actually get it out into the industry to be used. Magotteaux is a commercial entity. We have a parent company, Sigdu Coppice in Chile, and they want us to make money. So we need to be able to monetize it. It's not like we stick one of these in and sell extra tons of media. We actually have to make money on this product. And I think we're starting to do that. And again, the Belgians are very, very insistent that you have to make money. I have to actually convince internal stakeholders. Within Magotteaux, like most companies, you've got competing objectives. You've got, in a mine, you've got the mining engineers who want capital for trucks. You've got the metallurgists who want capital to put in a new float cell. You've got geologists who want a new drill rig. You actually have to build a very convincing argument internally to be able to get the funding you need to build these things and move forward. So if you don't have the right business case, if you don't have the value proposition, it's unlikely the powers that be will actually give you the money. So you have to have, in your own self, you actually have to be multidisciplinary. You also have to find people who are willing to experiment Where am I going to put this thing? You know, it's all well and good to say, okay, we're going to go to Mount Isa, lead zinc, we'll talk to Glencore, yeah, they'll do it. If Glencore don't know what you're talking about, and they don't actually want you to have this on site, you'll never get it on site. So you actually have to find people in the mining companies and on site who are going to champion your ideas and help you get this through. Once we've done all this, we need to actually develop case studies. And from that, we can market the technology and we can get it out there, and hopefully it becomes a standard piece of equipment that is in most operations. We've come out the other side of the valley of death, although we might slip back in one day. But we are currently running industrial trials at BHP Prominent Hill, MMG Dugald River, and up at Batu Hijau. The initial results at both Dugald River and Batu Hijau are very, very good. It looks like we can actually control we can measure stuff, and from that we can actually start to control the flotation process. We did a trial back in 2019, a short trial at Prominent Hill on their Jamison cell, the first one, and that bore fruit. It showed that by controlling or using the pulp chemistry, we could actually control the collector air and level on their Jamison cell, and that gave them a 0.8% increase in copper recovery. During that trial, we actually asked them, what is the objective of your Jamison cell? And I might as well have been talking to a brick wall. Hopefully there's nobody that I've offended. They didn't really tell us the answer. Basically, the JAMO is there to make final concentrate. So we've modified the algorithm now so that the operator can type in the concentrate grade that they require, and then based on changes in the pulp chemistry, the algorithm will tell the app what collector air and level it needs to add to the Jamison cell to get that grade at the best recovery. At the moment, we're trying to prove that, and I would hope that sometime in the near future, I'm giving up naming years and months because it's been a long COVID existence to try and get this to this point. But I would suggest that within the next 12 months or so, we will be able to prove that our algorithms using pulp chemistry and plant data will be able to achieve what we hope to be able to get. Better metallurgy, better utilisation of reagents, improved money for them as well as Magotteaux. In this journey, I think you need several, fundamental things. It takes a hell of a lot longer than you anticipate. The first Magotteaux pulp was actually built in 2008. I guess we finished the design last year and was built early this year. So, we've been doing this a long time. Tim Napier-Munn in the Del Pratt lecture indicated that innovation, getting it from inception to acceptance in the mining industry takes somewhere around 40 years. I don't think I've got the energy to last 40 years, but we'll try. You need clear, concise, honest communication. Miners are a little bit like dogs. They can smell fear. So if you're bullshitting them, they will smell it. So you have to be honest. If you can't do it, tell them. If you can do it, but it's going to take time, let them know. They're very patient if they think it's a good idea. So good communication is key. You have to manage expectations, particularly in my circumstance, I've got to manage up. I've got people in Belgium who want me to make X millions of dollars per annum out of this. COVID was a good thing for them because they actually started to realise that in the rosy world on the top floor where the exco live that hasn't got very much oxygen, things don't always happen to their time frame, and they actually have to be patient. This takes time. You will get there if you've got good people working on this, and fortunately Magotteaux are continuing on with this. Expect setbacks, resistance, but be willing to push through, be willing to persist, be willing to ask for forgiveness. Or in my case with Belgium's, forgiveness is always the best way. You never ask for permission because you never get an answer. And try to look beyond today into tomorrow. And this is one of the reasons why we're in the PRIF and the training centre, because some of the sensors that are being developed now or in the PRIF have application on Magotteaux pulp. We submitted a grant or an application for a CRCP grant in June to develop some of the sensors that have been developed in PRIF to put on that thing. So the sensors, the things we do measure are pH, EH, dissolved oxygen, temperature and oxygen demand. Very, very simple. But if we can start measuring some of the other things, we can actually start looking at hydrophobicity, collector utilisation and things like that, which should further advance our algorithms and improve the stability in a plant and make things a lot better. I think that is it. Oh no. Keep things in perspective. My 19-year-old son keeps me in perspective because he thinks I'm probably a bit dull. But have fun and maintain a sense of humour. Things don't always go your way, but doesn't hurt to have a joke, doesn't hurt to believe in what you're doing, doesn't hurt to have fun. And I think that is the last comment. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Chris? Yes. Just wait until the microphone's coming right behind you.
Thank you for sharing your mindset of entrepreneurship. But considering future challenges, like climate challenges we're going to face, how do we adapt this entrepreneurial mindset to this context? Because, well, the youth is very concerned about the future, no matter how good an entrepreneurial mindset can be.
Well, firstly, I don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I hate the word. I think it's overused. Most innovation comes from a need. If you don't have a need, people don't necessarily innovate. And when I'm a metallurgist, I can only talk about metallurgy and flotation, but if you look at Broken Hill, the mine started in 1882, mining oxide ore, very simple. But gradually as they went into the primary ore, the recoveries were going down, BHP was losing money, things were getting bad. Del Pratt and others developed flotation because they had a need. They had to improve their recoveries. They went out, they experimented, they did the right thing to be able to recover that valuable mineral. A lot of innovation comes through when we are actually facing severe challenges. If we're not facing challenges, we tend to be a bit lazy. And it's a very human condition to be lazy. We don't necessarily want to be out there running around all the time because it's exhausting. So when we have really, really significant problems, whether it's in mineral extraction, climate change, energy, we actually get up and we actually use our grey matter, we actually improve things and we do come up with a solution. Unfortunately, we actually have to deal with competing interests within the globe, politicians, policy makers, different generations, different country objectives. So climate change is a lot bigger than me measuring pulp chemistry and trying to improve recovery. But if you don't have something urgent to drive it, I probably didn't answer your question, but anyway.
It's Penny Stewart from Petrodata Science. I've got a question for you. First of all, great presentation and can relate to a lot of the challenges that you talked about and validate them. There's one extra one that we come across, especially post-COVID, and that is the fast turnover of staff on site. And how do you manage that and or have you had experience with that fast turnover and the impact on your efforts in commercialisation?
Thanks, Penny. In the old days, you'd use a 6-inch nail and nail their left foot to the ground. They couldn't leave, but apparently you can't do that now. It's difficult. We've been reasonably, with this project, we've been reasonably free from some of that. We have instituted fortnightly meetings with all 3 sites to actually work out where we are. We try to involve people on site that other than the champion, so that there are 2 or 3 contacts. So that's helped. But another example I'll point to is the grinding media trial we did at Ernest Henry. We started doing that work in 2003, and we didn't get to plant trial until 2009. And from, I think it was 2006 to 2008, I saw 5 metallurgical superintendents that I actually had to try and convince to go to the next step. And it's just, you have to be either thick as 2 short Tasmanians like me, or just very persistent. You go, you educate, you hopefully convince someone and hope they don't leave. Unfortunately or fortunately, people have free will, so they will go, and you have to start the process all over again. The best thing to do is try and spread your efforts without spreading yourself too thinly, but multiple people in one organisation. And it's still no guarantee.
Yeah, thanks. That just shares the experience I've had well there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
No worries, thank you. Patience, fun, but also do it now as well.
Picky. Thank you, Chris, for an excellent presentation. That concludes the morning's presentations, and soon we will break for morning tea. But first we'll gather for group photo on the stage. Sanaz is telling me. Follow Sanaz's instructions. Everybody onto the stage for a group photo. After the group photo, we'll reconvene at 11:30 with our next guest speaker, Dr. Paul Hethersay, and your MC, Professor Nigel Cook. So thank you, everyone, and onto the stage.